music, I am not in pain. Bring me a ritual, a tribal game. Moonlight on the water, shadows on my mind. Tell each other things nobody knows.
Hey, it's Roger McNamee from MOONALICE. Happy 420. I'm here behind Slim's, where we have a giant poster gallery behind me. I am so excited because 420 is the highest of high holy days in the MOONALICE tribe, and the whole tribe is gathering here tonight to celebrate. I've been investing in technology since 1982, which is basically the beginning of the personal computer industry. And I only took the job because I couldn't afford to be a musician. I was in a really great band in college, and we had a chance, I think, to make it. We were sort of, imagine if you will, a band that is at the intersection of the Grateful Dead, Frank Zappa, and punk, which was the thing in the late 70s. And we were somewhere in that intersection, and we had a great following. The problem was I had been living independently for so long at that point that, you know, I'd had to pay my own way through college, and I had to borrow a ton of money. And I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to earn enough as a musician to pay back all these debts. And so I got a real job. I got a day job. And the weirdest part of it was that it was almost perfect. I go to work analyzing an industry of people who were basically my peers. They were all exactly the same age I was. They liked the same music. They took the same drugs. And instead of going out to casinos when they went to Vegas, they would have jam sessions. And I had a huge advantage coming in from the outside because I'd been playing happy hour music in bars to pay my way, you know, have spending money when I was in college and graduate school. And so I knew 200 songs, like every word, all the chords, the beginning, the end, the part in the middle. And it turns out when you're in a jam session, that is invaluable. Somebody who actually knows I mean, everybody knows one verse and maybe the chorus, but hardly anybody knows the whole song if they're not playing all the time. And so I was welcomed in because I was essentially the glue that held these jam sessions together. And what was funny is that the people in the jam sessions were the people who were running Apple Computer and Borland and Microsoft and all these other places. So I got to know them in a musical context. So what was really funny was that for me, there was really no difference between music and my day job because the music was such an important part of my day job. And so I wound up playing a lot. And in the end, we formed this pickup band inside the industry, which got some really cool gigs, peaking with a gig in the basketball arena in Las Vegas where we opened for the Temptations. And, you know, but we played the Fillmore and we played all these other cool venues. And, you know, we weren't good, but we were enthusiastic. And the most important thing was that it was just this wonderful convergence of day and night that was uniquely helpful to me and reminded me always how important music is to me and why the dream of playing in successful bands and playing and moving audiences to some emotional peak was a dream I never wanted to give up. People always ask us, how did you come up with the name MOONALICE? And my response is, it's embarrassingly simple. When you form a band, you're sitting there trying to come up with names, right? And it turns out that when put on the spot like that, it's really hard. I mean, it's just really, really hard. And one of the things that makes it harder is that you have to have a website. And so you need to be able to get whatever your name is as a URL. And that turns out to be really, really hard because all the simple words have been used. So we decided to put together two very short nouns and make our own new word. And so we created a long list of these things. And the name MOONALICE is, you know, it was from Jackie Gleason and the Honeymooners. He used to talk about Alice, go, to the moon, Alice, right? And, you know, so that's where the idea came from. But MOONALICE won because obviously the moon is artistically interesting and Alice gave you all women, right? So we had one rule. It allowed us to be a matriarch. And we basically said, the only rule for the artist is you can't do a poster of a woman doing something or in a position that a female member of the MOONALICE tribe wouldn't be comfortable doing. That turns out to be an incredibly low-level restriction. People have had no problem with it at all. What kind of music does MOONALICE play? We're most traditionally lumped into the jam band scene, and I think that's because we have great musicians who really know how to solo and really know how to improvise on their instruments. And, you know, so I think the jam band classification is directionally correct. I think that we are more, you know, the jam band scene really has two core types of bands. You have ones that come from the Grateful Dead song-centric model, where the songs have a beginning and an end, and the lyrics mean something, and the melodies are lovely, and blah, blah, blah. And then you have bands from the Fish school, where the emphasis is on improvisation, and the improvisation dominates the program. And there are adherents to both styles. We are very clearly from the Grateful Dead camp of being very song-oriented. We write our own music, we focus a lot on the lyrics, we focus a lot on harmony vocals, and you know, again, I don't draw a judgment, it just happens to be where we come from, and I think, you know, that stylistically we're all so heavily influenced by the Dead that it's natural that that would be the way we would come down. So anyway, we make this album. You know, with Jack Cassidy and G.E. Smith and Pete Sears and Barry Sless, Jimmy Sanchez and Ann and me. It was amazing. I mean, working with T-Bone Burnett, humbling, and I mean, eye-opening, and the best learning experience maybe I've ever had. And so we make the album, and we're ready to introduce it, right? We're ready to introduce the album. And it's like they go out to the press and like nobody cares. I mean, they couldn't have cared less. Why? Because T-Bone did two other albums while he was doing ours. One with Elvis Costello that was kind of like a new folk thing, and then one with Robert Plant and Alison Krauss that was called Raising Sand, and that won the Grammy. I mean, it won every Grammy. It was huge, and people were T-boned out, and it was like we put out our album, and Elvis puts out his album, and it's like the yawn was deafening. And so we're stuck with like, oh my God, what do we do now? So that's when we looked at Twitter and Facebook, and we just decided, you know what? If nobody cares, we're going to build our own audience using the technology that we know. And we first started doing Twitter casts, where we would record a song, rip it, and then post the link to it so you could listen to a whole show essentially in real time, but call it 8 or 10 minutes delayed, right? And it worked out really, really well. And then we start filming shows and selling CDs. And it gets too complicated because by the time we get up to 3 cameras, it's taken 2 months to mix down a show, and we're doing 15 a month. So next thing you know, we're 50 shows behind. And our sound guy, Timmy Stigler, goes, well, why don't we just do one live? And we're looking at him going, live? You can do that? And so we figured out, wait a minute, we can get a satellite, and we can get somebody to give us the bandwidth. We can actually do this for next to nothing and do the whole thing ourselves. And so that's where Moontunes came from. And we even got a patent. We have an issued patent on Moontunes for, you know, basically doing live streaming end to end. And so we start doing that, and we've now done 500 of those. And so you put all those things together, and it's like, huh, you're getting from Chet Helms all the way to the 21st century, all in what used to be a jam band. MOONALICE, when it began, was trying to do something from the ground up. We were trying to create an image, we were trying to create a legend around the band. And we used the poster art to set the original context for this. And by having a poster at every show, there was a reason at each show to create a legend for why we were there that night and to spread that. Meanwhile, my wife Ann and G.E. Smith wrote a song called It's 420 Somewhere. And now keep in mind, I still got a day job, right? It's an investor day job. I'm doing my best to keep day job and night job separate. I'm really trying super hard not to piss off too many people with the fact that, you know, I'd like to play rock and roll and do rock and roll things. And so, you know, we're sitting there, we do the song, and they go, well, you got to sing it.
It's 420 somewhere, it might as well be here. Rig for heavy weather, strange but not to fear. It's 420 somewhere, it might as well be here. Thunder, clap and lightning, then the sky will clear.
And I go, okay, no problem. So I sing the song, and we included an initial thing we did. It was a hidden track. It wasn't even in the listing, right? It was a hidden track on the CD. But everybody liked it so much that we posted it for free on the website. And next thing you know, we have 100,000 downloads. And I'm going, wow, that seems like a lot. And so I called up the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I go, do you guys know what's the largest number of downloads any band has ever had from its own website? And they came back 2 weeks later and go, we can't find any trace of anybody making 100,000. What number are you at? And I'm going, we're at like 110,000. It goes, whoa, that's cool. Send us the logs. So we started sending him the logs. Well, by April 20th of the next year, we were at 1 million. And they're going, whoa, this is pretty cool. Well, essentially over the ensuing 4 years, we got to 4.6 million downloads with this huge cluster around 420 every year. Well, as you can imagine, me and my investment world, the cat is completely out of bag at that point. And you know, we started having these 420 celebrations because, I mean, let's face it, there was no reason not to own it completely. And so we did. And then the really hilarious thing was that when Jason Crosby and I started playing as a tight vocal harmony duo, we didn't have a name. And initially it was Crosby, Nobody, and McNamee, CNM, right? Because you know, that seemed like a thing. And then Jason comes back from New York from a gig with some other band. He tells me this hilarious story about how somebody comes up to him after the gig and goes, Jason, you're in like 9 different bands. How do you keep track of everything? He says, I have a system. And the guy goes, yeah. And Jason goes, well, it's like the Dewey Decimal System, but it's for music. So it's kind of a Doobie Decibel system. And I'm listening to this, I'm going, Jason, that's our name. And he goes, okay. So that's our name. So we play like, I don't know, we get 15 invitations in the first few months to open up gigs or play freebies at benefits or whatever. And people are really grooving on it. We're really liking it. And then last summer, I get this phone call on a MOONALICE tour. And it's this guy. And he starts screaming at me, you're killing my business. And I'm going, excuse me, who is this? And the guy goes, I'm the manager of the Doobie Brothers, and you guys are infringing on our trademark, and you're killing our business. I'm going, wait a minute, are you sure you're talking to the right person? We played 15 shows, and I think our maximum paycheck was $500. And it's like, I mean, I'm going, look, I like the Doobie Brothers. We can figure this out, no problem. You don't need to sue us. A couple weeks later, we're at the Lock-In Festival. MOONALICE is playing on the second day of Lock-In. They have this tornado on the 2 days, a day before the thing, that wrecks the grounds, and they have to cancel the first day. So they take the headliner from that day, which is the Doobie Brothers, and they put them first up on the second day, right in front of us on the same stage. So we have an opportunity to kiss and make up. Jay Blakesberg, the great photographer, our dear friend's there. I say, Jay, when they come off stage, I want you to hang right here. I want you to take a picture of Jason and me with the guys from the Doobie Brothers. So they come, before the set ends, their publicist comes up and goes, are you Roger from MOONALICE and the Doobie Decibel System? And I go, yeah. And she goes, oh man, do I feel bad. I said, why? She goes, I'm the publicist for the Doobie Brothers, and I think we stepped in a large cow pie. And I went, well, it sure doesn't feel good to be me, because I got legal bills going up like crazy. And but I said, you know, no hard feelings. We'd like to settle this whole thing. We'd like to actually do something for you guys if you bring your guys over after the... And she goes, oh yeah, definitely. They want to meet you. They want to apologize. So Tom Johnston, one of the founders of the Doobie Brothers, comes up to me afterwards. And I'll tell you, if I had lived to be 100, I'll never have a cooler conversation with another human being. Tom Johnston goes, man, I don't know what it feels like to be you guys, but it must suck to have somebody like us come in and sue you over something so ridiculous. It's horrible. I feel terrible. I hope there's something eventually we can do to make it up to you. And I go, dude, I got a better idea. Let's take a picture of all of us, and you can put it out on your page to show that everybody's kissed and made up. So the thing goes away. But one of the things I've discovered is that no good deed goes unpunished, and it doesn't matter what field you're in, okay? And, but at the end of the day, what you gotta do is you gotta stand up for your own values and not get down in the muck, right? We didn't throw any insults at them, we didn't do anything to hurt them, and in the end it worked out fine. And so, you know, everybody lives happily ever after, and hopefully we go on and make great music together. The idea of MOONALICE Radio originated with Ben Fong-Torres, the great writer formerly of Rolling Stone. And Ben comes to me and he goes, Roger, you guys need a radio station. I'm looking at him going, really? I mean, I've like never even thought about it. And so I said, Ben, I have no idea if we need one or not, but it looks like you really want to create one. So go ahead.
We were just chatting about the fact, or that in my observation, MOONALICE was so great with interaction with their tribe, their fans. And They do social media like nobody else. They do live Twitter casts. They post all their shows online, and so all fans can go to moonalice.com and see and hear pretty much whatever they want from the past 5 years.
He connects with Gail Barnes, who is in charge of our social networking, and they basically concoct this idea that we're going to have a radio station that is going to play music that our fans might like, and as with everything else around MOONALICE, it becomes a home for really creative people trying to do something new and different.
Roger does this thing where he has commissioned great poster artists from the past, as far back as the 60s to today, to create new concert posters for every gig they do, and they're given out free. And then when they're sold online, the proceeds go to the artists. So this struck me as being all to the good with one void. And I thought, I'm thinking about Fish Radio, Grateful Dead Radio, Little Feat Radio, Bruce Springsteen Radio, Tom Petty does a show, Bob Dylan has done his own show on satellite. And I said, why doesn't MOONALICE have his own radio station? And his answer, Roger's answer, was simply, well, we can have one if you'll build it. So, okay. Excuse me while I go and create a radio station right now.
As with everything else around MOONALICE, it becomes a home for really creative people trying to do something new and different. In a sense, it's absolutely of a piece with what we've done in poster art, where at tonight's show we'll give out, I think, the 914th poster in 9 years. I mean, behind me is this whole wall of posters that are just a smidgen of the full 914 that we've done so far. And so we start with the poster artists, then we start working on video. And then we bring in these really cool guys who have an idea how to do streaming to cell phones before anybody else was doing it. And then we've got some folks who want to do like light walls behind our show. And it's like, okay, that sounds cool. So essentially, MOONALICE has become an excuse for talented people to do the thing that they want to do in an environment where, frankly, it's really hard to get paid for doing anything anymore. And so, you know, my strategy is just let's try to make the world a better place. And I'm not sure that, you know, from the perspective of the music industry that anybody cares, but that's not the goal. We don't care what the music industry thinks. We only care that creative people do creative things and reach audiences that appreciate what they do. And on that metric, every part of this has been a huge success. And MOONALICE Radio is just the latest installment in this really wonderful series of things of incredible people doing beautiful art for other people.